Welcome everybody to the second session of the day for our March 2025 Town Hall. We had a really busy session this morning, talking through quite a lot of topics. I'll try and be a little bit quicker this time. Essentially, we're going to talk about the new stack, so the Oracle plus Cloudflare dedicated stack for London. Obviously, if you're in the US and Australia, that's not that useful right now, but it gives you an idea of what's coming around the corner. It won't be long until we're launching those two and able to offer new sites going onto those stacks automatically. So we'll talk about that. Devon's got a comments module that he's going to give a quick demo of. I showed a video that he provided this morning. And it was yeah, really good, really cool to see that in use. But I'll let him reveal all. That will lead on quite nicely to the admin menu customization feature that we released about a month ago now. It was in February sometime, where you can customize the left-hand menu. Great to see how people are using that, including Devon, and just get feedback on that. Make sure everybody knows about it for starters. Then the next one is an update on Studio and Site Builder, where we are with our improvements there. Yeah, we've made some really good progress and want to give you a sneak peek and get some feedback, hopefully. And then finally, just checking that everybody's aware of the new roadmap and any feedback on how to use it or anything that you think is perhaps not being, being missed or needs a bit of attention. So yeah, let's get started. I'll just share my screen and we'll talk about new stack quickly. So we released it, we sent an email out as part of the town hall invite, and we've done this blog post here, which talks about the new stack. So officially this new London data center using Oracle and Cloudflare is a dedicated Siteglide stack, and that goes live technically next Tuesday on the 1st of April. We've got a few UK partners wanting to put sites live before then, so we're getting those on manually and effectively going live in the next couple of days. But the main point to make there is that it's a seamless change. We just want to make it as seamless as possible for you, and Platform OS have worked with us really closely to ensure that. So just pulling this Platform OS graphic up quickly. The great thing, they've handled the DevOps this whole time, and DevOps doesn't really get talked about too much because they just handle things like reliability, flexibility, performance, and security. And the stack itself is agnostic in terms of cloud providers. So we've been on AWS for up until now. We've worked with them on looking at Google as a cloud provider, but really stuck with Oracle and Cloudflare working together. There's just lots of benefits for that for the future, and having our own stack gives us so much opportunity to add in features, make sure that it's performant and working exactly as we need, and yeah, just generally total control over the environment. So yeah, that's coming very soon. Any immediate questions on that? There were a few earlier, so I just wanted to be able to answer any immediate concerns. As I say, if you're US based, it's probably a little further off, but happy to answer any questions now.
So Luke, up until now, would it be accurate to say that up until now, Siteglide sites have been AWS hosted, and then when this change happens, or if we open sites on the new stack, then they would be Oracle hosted. Is that accurate to say with
Correct.
Cloudflare?
So the actual,
Okay.
in terms of the cloud provider, yes, switching from AWS to Oracle, but obviously with all of the Platform OS DevOps layer in there, so nothing really changes in terms of
Yeah.
what we're used to and how it works. Yeah.
Cool.
A good example I didn't mention of improvement. So there's out of the box, it'll be seamless, but one big improvement that we have coming or want to have very soon would be image optimization. So I'll just show that as a quick example. So here's a site running on the new UK London stack. So the domain will be a Siteglide domain going forwards. There won't be any platform OS staging or production. It'll be a Siteglide domain for everything because it's our own dedicated stack. And then if you manage images in File Manager as normal, you'll find that you can do it right now. To be honest, you can manipulate or customize the URL via this feature that Cloudflare has called transform via URL. So there's different parameters that you can put on top. So a bit of a weird one is blurring an image. I'll put that on there as a good example, just so you can see it. There's these settings in here where you can control the width. Let's make it a little bit smaller. And then let's drop the blur on there as well. So basically anything that you can do that they say you can do, we're going to make sure is possible. The bit we're working out at the moment is just how do you manage that from a site build perspective. So is it going to be part of the asset URL tag where you can control these kind of parameters? We're also looking at having some defaults and presets. So you might set your maximum thumbnail size, maximum banner size, that kind of stuff, so that you can kind of optimize the site to suit the project. So just trying to cover all of that kind of stuff at the moment, but that's one huge benefit that we don't have currently on the AWS route. A lot of people use Cloudinary to achieve the same results, and it'll just be a native out of the box feature. Any questions on that specifically on the sort of Cloudflare or the optimization side?
Luke, could you put the link to that doc into the chat? That'd be really cool to look through.
Sure. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, thanks.
Put that in there. There we
And
go.
right now, the Cloudflare is only available in Europe because of Oracle.
So we've only got our UK London stack as of now live, and technically it's really going live next week in terms of people putting sites on there. So when you press go live in Siteglide from next week, it would automatically, if you pick London, automatically go to Oracle and Cloudflare, not to AWS. When we launch the US and Australian ones, the same would happen. So the only reason it's not available is we're starting small. We're starting with one data center, getting it up and running, then starting to look at a few migrations. So offering the chance for people to use site copy and migrate sites over to the new stack. And then at that point, we'll be ready just to open it up and get US and Australia up and running. And we'll do exactly the same process.
Now, and this is a replacement for AWS. Is this you'll
Yeah.
no longer have the option for AWS? And what was the reasoning behind moving? Or
Good question.
is there?
It's not necessarily. Yeah, it's not like AWS. AWS is bad and Oracle is good. AWS have just they because they're the biggest player, they can change the rules quite easily, and they've made it difficult, or they just keep changing it. And Oracle
That
seem a
doesn't
lot
sound
easier.
like Bezos at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oracle have just been really good to work with from a Platform OS side of things. So that has allowed Platform OS to be able to offer like dedicated stacks and invest in doing that for us. So it's not that we can't use Amazon, it's that we're only going to have a certain amount of dedicated stacks, and it makes sense to have them on the best overall architecture, which Cloudflare is a huge improvement, which, I mean, just on the DNS, we'll have some improvements to that down the line. But yeah, it's looking like it's a really big opportunity, especially
Okay.
having that
And one
dedicated
other
stack.
thing, and I don't mean to take up all the question time, and I know it doesn't apply to me now, but it will. And so when would you anticipate this being implemented in the US? Do you have a date estimate?
We don't have a date, but seeing as we're launching next week and we're going to have people using it, we'll know very, very quickly. But I mean, we've already got sites running on there. It's already like for like and seamless. Once we've just started doing a few migrations, I think that would be the point where we pull the trigger and get the US and Australian stacks set up. So I think realistically, we're 1 to 2 months away, I would hope. We want really everything up and running. So in terms of the plan, the ideal plan is that everybody moves all existing sites across. That would be the aim, because then we would run everything off dedicated stack, and there's benefits to that. So every time we add in a new feature, everybody would benefit. In reality, we're not going to force that. John from Website Success mentioned this morning doesn't want to feel like another BC end of life. Nobody wants that. So you don't want to be forced into doing a migration, and it isn't migrations. The platform owners have worked very hard to make sure it's basically a seamless site copy, like when you copy a site now and do a backup or something like that. So the only real work for you on a migration would be DNS. You literally, if you're fully delegated, you just have to do name servers. If it's external, you have to do CNAMEs.
Yeah.
So we would hope that we're in a position to offer you that in the next, let's say, 1 to 2 months. And by then, we'll hopefully really be incentivizing it with some really good benefits like image transformation, DNS improvements, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a client who pretty much handles all their DNS, and I think you remember verification of their domain. They had to manually do that, and we had an issue with that. And I just want to make sure that I'm assuming Oracle has the same kind of workflow as AWS, but I would just want to make sure they're in the loop on that so that it's not like a
Sure.
surprise and stuff like that. I mean, to me it makes sense to make this shift if that's where everything's going. But
All the
if that
domains
can
will
be done
actually be, yeah, all the domains will be managed through Cloudflare, and Cloudflare is probably
yeah,
the best out there for DNS management
yeah,
and CDN. So yeah,
okay,
that will be an improvement. It'll be like for like at the moment because that's how it's been set up, but very soon there'll be some nice improvements there. Yeah.
okay,
All of
Um,
the current setup in terms of logging into the Siteglide user interface, selecting domains, going there, editing, blah, blah, blah. All of that is going to remain the same. It's just going to be on a different infrastructure,
exactly that.
basically. Is that
The
right?
phase one is make it the same. Phase two is make it better.
And then, of course, the same, bundled reseller / affiliate pricing and all of that everything stays the same. The way that we create new site instances, the way that we integrate CLI and set that up, all of that remains the same. It's just an infrastructure change, really.
Yes, the only thing to mention on staging and production is at first you'll carry on building sites. So anybody using London will carry on building sites on Oregon staging for AWS, and on Go Live you're pushing to Oracle and Cloudflare. So I mean that kind of shows how much confidence we have in the site copy process and it being seamless to switch between the two. So migrations should be the same. But yes, once we're up and running with US and Australia, I think we would expect to do dedicated staging at the same time. So essentially, you'll start on uh, Oracle and Cloudflare staging as well, but we don't have that right now. But yes, to answer your question, everything will be exactly the same in terms of your experience, how you do things, just the infrastructure has changed.
Okay. And then on the DNS, are we going into the existing site and simply updating the DNS, or is there going to be a second instance of the site once the migration, quote unquote, migration takes place where we update the DNS? Like what about that?
It's a second site. So imagine, I don't know how often you guys do it, but imagine you do site copy on an existing site. You get another site and you can go into there. The difference is if you do that currently on shared, you can't add the new domain, or you can't add the same domain to the new site until you've removed it from the old, because it can't be on Amazon in two places. The good thing about migrations to Oracle, well, Cloudflare, is they're two completely different systems. So you do site copy to Oracle Cloudflare, and then you would add the domain in the new one, effectively in Cloudflare, while keeping it in the old one. You can get all of your records done and updated, and then you literally just change name servers. So it will be pretty seamless switch over because you've effectively got the domain running in both sites.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So
And we would
it,
obviously have to do that for every site. Yeah.
yeah, so really the only work is the name server change, really. I mean, yeah, the site copy is automated. You would get the new site, you would add the domain in and change the NS records. That should be the only work involved.
Okay. And I assume we will be sort of notified or whatever, like when this is coming and when we need to do our part, et cetera, et cetera. We'll be working with you guys on it.
Definitely, and it'll be more of an opportunity than a requirement at first. You'll have warning of when it's coming. You'll have an opportunity to start looking at migrations, and obviously new sites will automatically go there, but that won't have any effect. Yeah, you'll start to be able to play around with site copy and migrations. The reason we're not just going to do it all for you in bulk is obviously you have like live sites with data, so you're going to want to control when to make the change. So you literally, when you're ready, you'll press the button to copy it to new stack, do your NS changes, and it's copied over. Cool. We'll have a lot more documentation on the processes, like the migration steps, the DNS, that kind of stuff, but it really will be as simple as just copy and update DNS.
All right.
Cool. Great. Any more questions from anybody on new stack stuff? Good. Right. So next up, Devon, if you're ready, don't want to put you on the spot.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll
Come
make
on,
you
Devon.
co-host.
All right.
Make you co-host.
Let's show off a little something cool. Josh is here. Josh should get at least more than half of the credit here for the ingenuity
Thank you, sir.
of getting this together. But basically, we had a website that is a internal portal that we're building for a client, and they're having like community bulletin board feature. And on that community bulletin board, so like this is my account, here's a little bulletin board, bike for sale. They wanted some commenting features. They just wanted people to be able to comment on a post. It could be a news item, it could be a bulletin board, doesn't matter. So these are logged in users to a secure zone. So we know their name, we know their, we know who they are, they're authenticated in. And we looked at different ways of doing this. Initially, they were like, can you just get a plugin that'll do commenting? And we kind of looked around in the 2025 version of that and weren't really happy with the options out there. I mean, there's Discuss, I don't think people are really using Facebook comments anymore. There's a couple others, but they're more expensive. And Discuss also requires you to like sort of create an account, or log in with your Google account or whatever. So this was more seamless. So we wanted to build a custom module on Siteglide. So that's what we did. You can see here, like, the ability to like leave a comment and it posts immediately, and then people can be notified. So there's an email notification function, so you can subscribe or unsubscribe to the thread. That will send an email notification, and the person who starts the conversation gets subscribed automatically, so that's nice. And then there's the sort of like back end piece of this, right? So the moderation piece. So I'll just jump into that. First off, you can see on the left hand nav, we're using the custom admin menu, so we're limiting the things that this customer can manage, and that's nice. It's really nice to be able to do that. So in the comments, you can view the comment threads by content type. So like you could look at pages versus web apps. So I can see here on bike for sale, I can view the comments on that. I could come in here and delete one, and that goes away. So there's easy moderation. You can also look at the comment stream, which is every comment in the entire site, just in one place in date order. You can refresh it based on when they come in. And then lastly, settings wise, there's layouts for what the commenting actually looks like. So like if you went into a post, what does this little box look like? What does it look like if there's, no comments there? And so there's some nice flexibility there too. So there's the ability to come in here and edit the message when it's out. When there's no comments at all, there's some different liquid tags you can insert here to personalize it a bit more, and you can create multiple layouts in a given site. So if you wanted to use a specific layout in a specific place, you could do that. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight is just the email. You can also do the same with email notifications. So you can set up an email template. Like, email templates are not fun to look at in code, but this is what this one is. And you can set up multiple email templates, and you can decide on your comment layout what kind of email template you're going to use. You can even say, I don't want to send emails at all. And then you've got this flexibility as far as what shows up in the email, different links, different tags for that. So setting this up in the actual, like putting it onto the layout itself is really simple. It's just inserting an include tag, just like you would insert a web app include or something like that. So it's really straightforward to do that as well. And you could put it in different places around the site if you wanted. So I think one question that's come up is just about spam with comments, right? So in this scenario, this is these are logged in users. So these are people who we've already authenticated in. So we don't need like spam catching stuff in here, but you could easily add a field to modify it just slightly. And there's different ways to do that. Either the whole 4 + 3 = what way, or some other ways. And I think even potentially in the future, Cloudflare allows for some kind of site-wide spam mitigation. Josh, you might be able to speak to that a little better. But anyway, so that's an overview of what we built. And it's just cool to have a custom module for it. I think we would probably use this in some other contexts. And yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Any questions?
Yeah, so on the styling, the little, the colors of the bubbles and all of that kind of stuff, all of that is obviously customizable, I assume. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not like a color picker interface or anything like that, but yeah, in the layout, it's just you set your own classes and you can decide what things look like. And you can have multiple layouts. So if you wanted one to look one way and another to look another way, and apply a certain layout on news items and a different layout on blog posts, you could do that.
Okay, cool. And then what about quoting on somebody's specific comment? Like, for example,
Oh, like
if
replying to a thread?
yeah, replying to a specific one. Like if I come in later past the conversation, but I scroll through the thread and I want to reply specifically to Luke's comment from 20 posts above, how would I call that out and reply to just Luke's comment? Is there an option for that?
It's a good question. We didn't build threading. That's essentially threading is what that's called. But it is absolutely possible. It's just not something we built in this iteration of it. Yeah. It's not technically impossible, but it's not built into this version.
I think it would just
So
be
in its
parent and
current,
child IDs, in theory.
Josh,
say that again?
Josh can chime
Oh.
in if he's there.
Yeah, essentially what Luke said, in terms of just assigning a parent ID to it, and then rendering it out that way. So yeah, definitely possible.
So in its current form, then, if I wanted to acknowledge Luke's comment, would I just do like an @ symbol, Luke, or whatever his screen name is, and then dash and then make my comment? I
Yeah,
guess would.
you could do that. Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I don't think that wouldn't like notify Luke in a unique way, but if Luke is subscribed to the thread, he would see his name coming through the email notification, and he would say, yeah, okay, cool. the email notifications are just they're gonna notify you of every single post like in the thread. So you can unsubscribe to them at any time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Question on moderation.
Yeah.
So this looks good, by the way. This is pretty cool.
Thanks.
So the only way that pretty much they can post is they have to be look like a member, board member, or it's basically maybe for another module it'd be called something different, but essentially they have to sign up to post. So they provide, you basically can take whatever information you want from them in a form. Is that how they do it? Like regularly they'd apply for a user on Siteglide, sort of? Or how does it?
Not on
Like, do they need a
Siteglide.
Siteglide account?
Oh, you mean for the moderators?
Well, for anybody that posts, because you say that anybody who posts has to be logged in.
Yeah, so this is a community. So the front end that I showed you is a community of like think of it like an intranet, like to use an old term, I guess. So everybody in the intranet is an organization member. They all have logins to a secure zone. So, or multiple
Correct.
secure zones. So that is what gives them the ability to post on comments. Because in this scenario, that's where we're using it. If this was like a public facing site with a blog, let's say, and anybody could post, then you'd need to basically set up a form that subscribes them to a secure zone so they can come back and have an account, and we can reference their email address for email notifications, that kind of thing. So yeah,
Okay.
it's
I
not
got building in
I
the
mean,
background here. Sorry, but
no, it's okay. Did that answer your question though? Like
yeah, that answered the question. I guess on the moderation thing, I'm assuming, I mean, we have like on Facebook, there's this terrible thread portal that just is pretty bad. People just post the worst things, but that's
Yeah.
public, it's on Facebook. With this, let's say somebody's registered and they're just a user on moderation wise, being as an admin, I could warn that person.
Or just delete
Yeah.
their secure zone
And then
access.
just delete their access and that kind of thing. So I
moderating
forget,
people.
I'm thinking they have to have a
Sorry.
Siteglide account to do it, but no, this is a member area. So they just register a member area, similar to how BC used to do it with a member area. So
Yeah, that you would just go into their
makes
CRM record in Siteglide and either remove access or delete that
disable
record.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's how you would
Nice.
moderate people. And then the moderation of the comments that are posted, like the interface I showed you with the custom module where you can go and delete posts, that would require your client or moderator or whatever to have a Siteglide
Yep.
login, but you can make them a user of a certain level and then they only see the things you want them to see. Yeah.
Cool.
Just to
Looks
confirm,
good.
you could have front-end non-secure zone commenting. It's just, as you said, Devin, you'd need to have a form every time for their name and email, and it's not as easy to control their access and what they can do. So this definitely suits sort of portals, communities, that kind of stuff. Steve mentioned on the call this morning that for his community sites, it would be really, really good. Whereas for a typical website, probably, yeah, you just got to weigh up whether you want non-secure zone use.
And we also had a conversation with them about like, what are you going to use the commenting for, right? Like, how is this? You say you want commenting, you want to have conversations. What do you want that to look like? And in this case, I think the community bulletin board example is the most relevant because it's like, like, is this sold yet? Or like, would you change price? Or like, how can I get in touch? Whatever. It's sort of like picture like a physical bulletin board and people pin up their ad or their whatever, and it's like but a way to interact with that ad. So that's kind of where this started. Yeah, if you got into something where you're like running a news site or a blog or something, I mean, this infrastructure would work, but it's a lot more, you're taking on a lot more work. It's like Do you enjoy managing the comments on your Facebook group or your YouTube channel? Probably not. So anyway,
What
hopefully
about
that's
HTML, Devin? Does it accept posting HTML? Like if you wanted to insert a graphic or, something in there to notify people of, say, an upcoming event or something like that,
right.
could that be posted in there?
At the moment, it just accepts plain text, but we could, that's also modifiable. We could insert tiny MC or any of the little, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Josh, but yeah, you could absolutely add that kind of data in there. I think images DJ might be like adding another layer of slight complexity because you're gonna then host the image on, in File Manager and that, but it's doable. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Uh,
this is available in the marketplace already to download, or do we have to get with
no,
you about
it's
it?
not available in the marketplace because we built it and we're like using it. But it is something that you can reach out to us about, and then we can um as far as we've gotten with thinking about that is we just wanted to show it to the community, see if it's even useful to anyone else. If it is useful in a use case, we'd probably sell it on a per site basis, no subscription or anything like that. And then we just have a conversation about it, we figure it out. So but we just wanted to show it and show off what's possible, see if anyone else, has projects where it might fit, and then we can talk. So you can email me.
Yeah, yeah. I've got one site, maybe two sites that this
Cool.
could be useful on. So yeah,
Cool.
I'll definitely ping you. I think I have
Okay.
your email. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put it in here too. But yeah, it's a module. It's installable, so we can. But yeah, it's not like a point. It's not at the moment like in the marketplace, click and install kind of setup. So,
Yeah.
um, cool. Any other feedback, or should we let Luke roll because he's got a lot to cover?
No, all
All
good.
right,
Really like
sounds
it. Great
good.
to see. And good use of
Cool.
custom admin menus as well. Really cool. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Um, yeah, and I'm sure Steve will be in touch at some point. I think it could be useful for him as well, maybe a few other people. Great. Yes, I'll another demo now. So I'll try and keep it quick, but we wanted to give you an update on Studio and Site Builder. So I'll jump into that quickly. Actually, before I do, I'll set the scene again because we've had this discussion probably many times, but very quickly setting the scene. Um, if you think back to those of you from the BC days and just generally like our vision back then and the whole time really has been to try and separate content from code, because generally like visual editors break content, break code at some point. Even the best ones tend to like modify the code and maybe make it a bit verbose, make it harder for you guys to manage and maintain, or people don't have the confidence in actually using those kind of editors. So we've always kind of wanted separating content from code, and web apps was probably the best way that BC did it, and we replicated. You literally focus on your content and data, and the layouts are handled separately. So you literally can't break the layout in that sense. And we never really did it for pages. So if I quickly share, I'll share where we got to previously, just as a reminder. Let me pull up my screen. Oh, sorry, just before we jump into that, I knew there'd be something. Just wanted to reiterate about admin menu customization. So in the roadmap, there's a new area called releases. And in there, we put a release in February 7th, it was, about how you can customize the menu. And there's docs on that as well. So do have a look at it if you haven't already, and you can achieve what Devon's just shown with that left-hand side of like a simplified admin. And then in the back end, it's this admin menu editor area in Site Manager. It's all using JSON at the moment. You just literally format it and add and remove and edit. Obviously, we can do a UI for that later, but we just wanted to get this out and give you control. And it's great to see people using it already.
It's
So
pretty
yeah,
simple. It's pretty simple
yeah.
to do. Yeah.
just JSON's very structured, a bit fiddly. You just have to make sure you get it right. But yeah, pretty simple to use. Good. Well, is anybody else using that? Any feedback on this feature at all?
I haven't tried it yet.
On those things, and that just you have to have a use case and time and everything. But yeah, we're mainly just making sure that everyone knows it's there and knows the capabilities. But always keen to hear feedback and ways we can improve it. Yeah, I'll just jump back into the Studio site builder discussion because I got a bit ahead of myself. So if we quickly have a look at Studio, this is an example of what I mean about editing content. It works, but there'll be times where potentially it doesn't work, and it might write some bad code, or it might actually break what maybe you've spent ages making look great for the customer. So that's something never been too happy about. But the biggest issue with it within this version of Studio was dynamic content. It just couldn't handle dynamic content because you don't render the page. You essentially load the page pre-rendered, and these just aren't pretty. They're not easy to work with. It just wasn't the right route. So we went back to the sort of drawing board of wanting to really separate content from code, but we also wanted to make sure we stuck with everything about Siteglide that we already have, and also some of the benefits of Site Builder as well. So what we have now, just jumping ahead, is a new version of Studio. We're calling it Studio at the moment, open to ideas on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But the idea here is that this focuses on this sort of structured data concept effectively, where we're using metadata and tags to kind of control what you can edit in each layout. They're sort of broken up into sections, which follows the kind of Flowbyte design system we've already got, but this could work for any kind of site, and I'll show you shortly. It really doesn't matter what your code base is behind the scenes. But effectively, we've got this one UI. We're going to keep developing this to try and make it so that you can stay in one place. From a customer perspective, I think you'll find that a lot easier in terms of training and management, and even from a onboarding or from an agency perspective with team members, it's just a lot easier to use. So you can create pages, you can come into a page, and then effectively this area on the left hand side is a fully rendered version of the page. So whatever you see here is the page, and if I click the little I button, it's going to load that page on the front end. At the moment, the design is just Flowbyte. It's just standard Tailwind Flowbyte effectively. You can do whatever you want here, but we're just using this as a good sort of first case example. But the most important bit to show is on the right hand side, we've effectively got sections. So the header and the footer are in a template. That we're not editing those here, we're just editing pages. But this first section is called call to action, and in there we have an image, title, and content. So the image here, title and content, and we also have a couple of buttons. So all the customer or whoever it is can do is edit the content, cannot break the actual code of the layout. We're going to be adding rich text into these fields soon, including the AI tool, the AI rich text editor that we released for web apps and the rest of Siteglide not long ago. So you can give control to your customers to edit content without breaking code. Same with images. You obviously can use File Manager. It's all hooked up with File Manager to insert different images. Put a different picture in there now, and that will update. And again, that's live at the front end. There'll be a save and draft mode, preview mode feature soon. We're just showing those as an example for now, but currently it just saves on update. Yeah, a couple more things. I'll try and get through it and then let you guys ask any questions. Blocks is an interesting feature. So the concept is you've got all these separate layouts or sections, sorry, that have been pre-designed and pre-set up to work with the editor. More on that in a minute. But you can kind of interact with those sections. So blocks is a great way to be able to control like how many buttons there are. If you don't want button 2, you can just take that away, and you just have button 1 that shows here. Oh, it's an Apple button too. You can change your URL and everything. And then, yeah, so that's dynamic in terms of being able to add multiple. There's just a loop going on to loop over how many items you have. And then another feature of this type of section is settings. You can control some design or just any kind of settings really that you or the theme, the section designer has come up with and set up in the file. So yeah, lots of control that you can have over these layouts. I'll just quickly show another type and then let you guys jump in with any questions. If we have a look at this one here, so content card images, again, we've got the title and description, that's this bit here, but we've also got a feature called lists. Now, lists are a bit like blocks that we just looked at, but this is more for managing sort of proper structured data, really. So in this example, it might be like a team, and you can add and remove. So it would come with none at the beginning, but you can add items into that layout because there's a loop looping over all these static items. So this is where you can effectively create, imagine you've got like a website with a team of 3 people. You don't want to build a web app just to manage 3 people. You want to be able to just use this layout, let people put the names of the people in there, manage the imagery. Let's drop this in again. And just manage that really easily. The really powerful bit that can save you a huge amount of time is with this same static layout, you can make it a dynamic layout. So if you click this button here, you can actually hook it up to a web app. It'll be for modules as well. So think blog, testimonials, team, whatever it might be. But for the moment, I'll hook it up to a gallery web app. And all you do is you map your fields. So I'm going to give the title of the web app field in the title. Then we're going to do description and then gallery image. So that has now updated that layout with dynamic content. And again, if we view that at the front end, those items are now there. So we basically just built a web app layout without coding anything. We've just taken a static layout and turned it into a web app list view. Yeah, any questions at the moment? There's a couple more bits to show, but I thought it might be better to let anybody jump in.
So
The
from a
dynamic
design or
thing is super
initial,
Sorry.
yeah, that's cool. So from an initial setup perspective, if we are, as designers, developers, or whatever, are initially setting this up for a client, anything that we change, like on the left hand side, like the layouts and the blocks of content and the things that we choose, does it automatically like make it available on the right hand side as we're dragging these blocks and building layouts to set them up initially for clients? Or how does the link work between this interface thing that you're interacting with on the right hand side to affect what's happening on the left? Yeah.
Sure. I probably should show more than expect you to guess. So I'll just carry on showing a little bit more and I'll properly answer that question, DJ.
Okay,
Just while I
cool.
remember, there's like responsive settings here. You can actually even do your own sort of breakpoints and test it across those breakpoints. The bit I'll show you next is just being able to add a new section in. We should have looked at that really, and then I'll show you the code side of it in terms of how these sections are managed. So if you click the plus button, the plus appears basically above and below every item, so you can control where they go, but you've also got the ability to move things up and down. So just brought this to the top. But let's just, in the second place, let's just put in a new item. Now, this is the library of sections, and to your point, DJ, you want to have a big library of things available to use, and you want control over what that lets you do in the layout effectively. So just looking through here, we've got a few custom ones. We've then got one I made earlier for Town Hall, and I put it in a Town Hall category. Content, that was one we've got on the page. Team and testimonials. Now, this area you can totally customize in terms of you can add your own library. You can add it you could create a whole library just for one website with a certain type of theme, just so that the customer can build out pages, landing pages, whatever it might be. or you can build out a library for your agency of a whole load of different designs, maybe running off Flowbyte as a starting point or running off Bootstrap, and totally customize the library available. And let's go and have a quick look at that. I think that's probably the best next step. So if we, so one thing to point out is we want to make this very like easy access to agencies. So we don't want you to have to be in CLI all the time. Obviously, the selling point for Siteglide generally is that if you can't do it in the UI, you can jump into CLI and do custom GraphQL or whatever it might be. So there's always that ability, but we want to take the need away from having to do that. So what we plan to do is have this is a UI for pages, but we'll soon have a UI for templates, a UI for sections, and one probably for themes, like theming. But the section UI would be where you can go and create a new one of these effectively, either visually or through writing in, like telling us what you want and it programmatically builds it, or also using AI. We've done quite a lot of testing where AI can work out the structure of these structured sections and build more. So there'll be lots of ways to help make these layouts, but I'm just going to show you the code way of doing it at the moment in CLI. Just so I think this will help you understand and answer your question, DJ, in terms of how this works and how it's structured. So yeah, what we're looking at here before I jump to the code is obviously, as you said, you're trying to match how that title there is editable here and how in code would you control what people can do. So just jumping across to Visual Code Editor, it can be whatever code editor you want using CLI. If we quickly have a look at, let's look at the call to action one. So this call to action one here, it has an image, a title, a description, and buttons. So you'll see here that it's just a section. That section is a bog standard Flowbyte section. You could grab your own sections from anywhere else. You could build your own. You could get ChatGPT to build it. You can do whatever you like and create a static section of content, effectively, code. All that you really need to do, and as I say, we'll help you with this a lot, but all you need to do is have some basic tags. So this .title is controlling where that sits on the page, and this .content is controlling the description, and then this .dark image in this example is controlling where that image is. And the only other bit that you have to do to get this to work is you basically have to tell the UI, the right-hand side, what these things are effectively, and some things like defaults, so that content, that default content. So effectively, and don't worry too much about seeing this, as I say, we'll help replace it. There's something called YAML at the top of every page. If you use CLI, you'll already see that in Siteglide pages, but in YAML, you effectively just have some very basic English language effectively, where you give it a name. So that call to action name there makes it appear in this list as call to action. If we quickly just prove the point and make that number 2, I'll just sync that to the site.
And only see your web browser, by the way, look.
Sorry, apologies. I will, I've been trying to show you VS Code. So can you now see VS Code?
Yeah.
Apologies. So this is a section from Flowbyte. As I said, it could be any section. And then here you'll see that we've got tags. So that H2 that you see on the page is that title tag there. And it's exactly like when you do a web app list view or something like that. You're putting in a dynamic tag for that content. Apologies if you couldn't see that until just now. But yes, so what I did in the metadata in the YAML is I just renamed call to action to call to action 2. And when you add in a section, you'll see that that now says call to action too. So you've got control over what appears in the UI in a very simple to manage, like just bit of text effectively. And if we have a look at this fields section, all we've got here really is saying there's image, dark image is the name of the field. You choose what type it is so that in the UI knows what to show. So if we just go back to this, it's showing an image picker. The label we put as image, so that's what shows here. And then the default image if you don't put one in. And then it's the same with any type of content, really. This is the title field, it's type text, the label is title, and it has some default content if you don't put it in. So all you really have to do is just set your tags and your definition, your schema effectively. And you've got yourself a new layout that's immediately available in your library. And when you put it into the page, it allows the customer or whoever it is to edit the content. Does that make sense? Apologies if it doesn't help if I didn't share my screen properly.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, ultimately what I was getting at is, I don't really have clients myself that log into the admin and update stuff. My workflow pretty much is the client just tells me, hey, put this on our site or change this for us or whatever, kind of thing. But for clients that I would set up a site for with it being understood that I'm going to deliver a site that they can take over and manage themselves, what I was ultimately thinking about is if I can still take my custom website design, but then integrate it into this system that would
Yes.
allow them to change it, then yeah, that would be useful. Yeah.
Definitely, and we're really thinking ahead from an agency perspective of this. So with user roles, we want to give you total control over what the customer can and can't do. So you might want to turn off the ability to add sections. You might literally want to control the building and only let them do the editing. You might want them to let them have access to certain types of layouts and functionality. You might want to let some people build their own layouts once we've got like a section builder. So we're going to put you totally in the driving seat over what you and the customer can do. But yeah, you could totally take one of your own templates, a theme forest template, whatever it might be, an existing website on Siteglide or another platform, and set up the various, a page template and various sections so that they can manage it in here. We are going to do everything to make that quicker and easier for you. So we'll take the work out of the bit that I just showed in VS Code where you have to put your tags in. Because it's structured data, we'll be able to help automate that process for you.
Yeah, very cool.
Another thing you might want to take away from the customer as a feature is this dynamic feature. So you might not want to let them use a web app, for example, but we can really customize what they can and can't do. Generally, I think the rule is let people do more. It's empower them to do things, and then you help them do the stuff they can't do. I think is generally a good rule, but every customer is different.
Yeah,
So,
good
quick look
job,
at
guys. Good job.
it's obviously
Question.
yes, sure, go for it, Michael.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So basically, there's no code editor on this anymore. It's basically done through the YAML file.
Good point. So
Or
the
am I
page
missing?
itself, yeah, the page itself doesn't really have the code in it. It has the
Like a
settings.
code
So
view, in other words, yeah.
we'll have a code view, but the code views will typically be for the section management, not the page itself. You don't really need a code view for the page, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Because the
Yeah,
only
I
code you're modifying is a specific section versus like the entire page. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so a page, when this is saving configuration effectively into the page. It's saying there's a content card images section, order 1, then call to action order 2, and it's just saving the data into the page with the configuration effectively.
Well, like for example, in that content box, let's say I wanted to bold a couple fonts there and I wanted to add a link there. Am I able to do all that there, or is that a code thing, or because
No,
it
so
doesn't?
one of the next things that's coming is rich text editor on these fields, and again,
Okay.
you or the section editor would be a section designer would be able to control whether that has rich text on it or not, a bit like you can in web apps.
Okay.
It's super flexible. It's super flexible. I love it. I could see so much potential to, like for different business models too, like to DJ's point from earlier. Like we are very similar to him in that we have some clients who just aren't managing the back end of their website at all. But in this case, you could potentially give them access to some of it, maybe some of it that they need to update on a more frequent basis, but then you still support them in other areas. Or you've got people who just need access to the whole thing. There's a lot of flexibility in that.
Yeah.
And then the section builder piece is the part that's really exciting because if you I was saying this to Luke the other day, but I think it just creates a lot of efficiency for agencies because if you build your library, your relevant made library of 60 layouts, and you can use them across any number of sites that you want to use, or you only use 20 on this site, but you're building a new site and you're drawing on that. And then if those can go into the marketplace at some point, or it could be shared across agencies, like I don't know, it just opens up a whole lot of flexibility and efficiency. Like you'd have higher margin projects.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
the
for
hardest.
me, like we've talked about before, and I assume for you too, Devin, design has always been, the most important thing, to me. Most of my clients aren't going to like templated, canned looking stuff. They want something that looks custom to them, kind of thing. And so the design part, if this allows me to take any design and integrate it in this way to make it available for people, or even myself, if I wanted to set it up that way to where I make it easier on myself, to edit the content or add things or whatever, kind of thing. Having that flexibility, yeah, I think that becomes interesting, to me all of a sudden, I would say, yeah.
There's so many different type things to think about. Like in an agency team, you might be actually using this so that the designer designs in Figma, let's say, the developer creates the sections, and then a marketing person puts the site together. You don't need the developer having to do all of the site build. You might choose to, and if you're if you're one person, then you're doing it all. But we don't need to just think of this from an editing perspective for the customer. You've got total control over your kind of workflow of projects. The bit that I'm really struggling with is, and we haven't solved yet, or we haven't decided on yet, is thinking of themes versus templates versus single site and multi-site. We need to make it incredibly flexible for you guys to build out and make available your libraries. So is a library Flowbyte versus Bootstrap, or is it a dentist template versus something else, or is it the 1,000 different sections that you've got that you use across all of your sites, and then you theme everything up once? Like we need to really help give you the architecture to do it whichever way suits your business, really, and it might be multiple ways. So
What if
yeah,
what if it's
more to come on that.
just as an idea to think about that, Luke, like what if we develop a design library? It's a deck of cards, basically, is a way to think of it. I've got a deck of cards. These work with Bootstrap, or they work with Tailwind, or they don't work with a framework at all. They just come with their own CSS file that runs. And like you can buy this deck of cards from us for X amount of dollars, and like with the deck of cards you get like 40, 50 sections that can be brought into your site. In order for the sections to work and render, you just need to add these includes to your head section and we're done. Like that shouldn't take a lot from you, like from Siteglide, to facilitate that kind of a thing, other than we need a common understanding of what the section structure is and the tags in the section so that they work. Which I know you're getting to next. I know you're not there yet, but like that's I think if you did that, then I could sell a deck of cards or I could sell a dentist website. Like it doesn't really make a difference as long as section structure is consistent across those products that I'm selling. Does that sound right or wrong? Or...
I think so. I don't have all the answers yet, but I think the key bit is, what does your deck of cards work with one set of CSS, or does it work with multiple sets of CSS? That's the bit that I haven't quite got my head around yet. I think in an ideal world, you'd be able to, and Josh has built it this way, you'd be able to switch out the theme, where the theme is the styling in the CSS. But as long as the CSS uses the same classes, in theory, all of those sections in your deck of cards would work with any of those themes. That's the bit where you've got to decide whether are you doing this at agency level to build multiple sites, or are you just building one site? And we want to be able to sort of facilitate both.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, obviously Bootstrap has a huge community, and that's why I chose it, to understand it. So I can easily go and create any of the layouts, 8 column to 6 column, 4 to 4 and 4, whatever, because I know the Bootstrap kind of sort of framework CSS classes for layouts. That's not a big deal for me, kind of thing. I can build, I can spend a little time building all those variations and stick them somewhere. The time
Mhm.
consuming part for me is to make those sections look a certain way. So that's where I keep going back to the design, right? So if
Yeah.
a design that I find on Theme Forest, for example, looks like it would be a good fit for my client, I'm taking that design and the same process that I go through to integrating it into the platform is I take that design and then I copy out the blocks and I just insert the Siteglide code within that block, and then I go over and paste that code in like a content holder or whatever, right? That's how I'm coming up
Mhm.
with my templates. But if once I have my design, it's simple at that point to create the different quote unquote section blocks because all I'm
Mhm.
doing is just repurposing either a content holder or a content section or whatever, and and changing the tags in there to associate that with this layout. So for me, it's going to always start with a site design, whether we want to call that a site template or a site theme, whatever. But everything would branch off for me from there rather than working the other direction of just starting to create blocks and stuff. I mean, I just don't create that way, that
Sure.
kind of thing. That's the biggest kind of like hang up for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to railroad the whole meeting because we could talk about it all day long, I think. But for me, there's two parts to design. There's styling, which is the global CSS, and then there's structure, which is the HTML. If it's styling and global CSS, you can have that in your global CSS file, and you can swap that out quickly and easily, and it update the whole site. But if it's structural in your HTML and your sections, then you need a different deck of cards for a different template almost. So
Right.
there
Yeah.
isn't always a clear answer as to how this is going to go. We just need, like, our challenge is to try and, just give you the freedom to do it your way, do it whatever way you like, really. Yeah. One thing I will say though is we're gonna make it easier and easier for you to add sections and import existing design and layouts, and AI is just going to help more and more with that kind of side of things. So the heavy lifting to make it Siteglide ready, I think we can massively help with. The design and build of a nice looking site is still with you guys, and you've got total control over how you do that and how it looks. But one thing on the how it looks, somebody mentioned it in this morning's session. They said, "What about background images?" And it was a good example of Josh's answer was the editor doesn't care what you're doing. As long as you give it the structure and you put that tag somewhere, it doesn't care where it is. So effectively, this is a way more flexible way of working. Like you can have a really complex section or maybe even animated area of a website, and as long as you put the metadata and the tags into it, the editor will just fill in the blanks. So you've really got total control to kind of design and build without worrying about the editing experience.
Yeah.
A couple more things to mention before I forget them, and I think there's a few questions as well. One thing Josh reminded me of this morning in the call was, because we're structuring this and because there's a defined way to build it, we can do a lot of things with it. So we can leverage caching, for example. So we can cache certain sections based on, if we know that it's not got dynamic content in it, for example, we would be able to cache those. So there's a lot we can do from performance side of things, from all sorts of angles, because we kind of know how it's structured. What was one of the other benefits quickly? Josh, anything else worth mentioning on that? My mind's gone
Yeah,
blank.
secure zones as well.
Yes, yeah. So you'd be able to define secure zone access or visibility or whatever you want to call it per section, per page, per template. Yeah. Obviously the draft mode feature is something we want to do next. Everybody's been keen on that for a long time. So what we're finding as we go more down this route is all the doors are opening at the moment. It's becoming more and more flexible than the other way around, which you kind of might expect for a tool like this.
Yeah. Good job, guys.
It's great. It's great work.
I think Helen asked the very important question of, when do you think we can start playing with the newest studio? Good question. We're getting it. There's some bits that are just missing that need to be done. We're doing Siteglide functionality next. I didn't really mention that very well, but getting in all of Site Builder and like forms and all of that kind of stuff, we're getting in next. Rich text editor, the ability to like save a page rather than just auto save. All of those kind of things we have to do. Then we need to do some kind of internal testing. Well, we need to set up themes and templates, that side of things. We need to do some internal testing, and the aim would be to get it to you guys as beta or even alpha, however we call it, as soon as we possibly can. The premise with that will have to be that, anything you build, it might be a little bit too early. Like there might be things that have to change. There might be breaking changes. So we'll do everything we can to avoid those, but we'll put it in your hands as soon as we can. Just not sure you'd be building. You'd probably find building small sites and not having to worry too much about breaking changes. But need to be a period where we really sign off on certain things to make sure it's production ready. I haven't given you an answer. I would like to say weeks, but probably a month or two is probably realistic. Trying to be careful, but also if we can get it to you soon, we will do. Just looking at the other questions, can we share sections with others like in the marketplace? So Helen often refers to the studio layouts feature that we have in Portal that sort of just fizzled out a bit, and it doesn't really get any attention. We're going to look at how we can manage that kind of stuff. So yeah, we want it to be so that this right-hand side area, let me pull up my screen again. We want it to be that this whole UI effectively is that can evolve. There might be a button that is like marketplace, and you might be able to pull in the comments module, for example, and integrate it with a section or something like that. We will really try and make sure that we leverage all the features that Siteglide has, including the marketplace and community side of things, and we just open it up. There'll be custom HTML, custom liquid areas that you can work with. We'll look at how we can integrate with other third parties as well. So yeah, we'll try and make it as flexible as we can. We'll just need feedback from you guys as you get going, I think, to know what's most valuable. Just quickly trying to answer any questions. When this is released, will we make custom layouts in a UI or via CLI? The answer should be both. It depends when we release it. It might only be CLI at first, but our plan is to release it with a UI for that. Oh, sorry, Josh has already answered that one. Can we include interactions and scripts? So yes, I think there's a in the page template, there's an area specifically for scripts, and obviously in the page there'll be these sort of custom liquid sections as well. Any other questions? I'm very conscious of everybody's time. Yeah, anything else? Cool. We'll keep you updated. We'll keep sharing probably little teaser videos of new features, but really wanted to share where we're up to. I think it's a real game changer in terms of site building and site management. And when we combine that with sort of the new stack route and the capabilities of image optimization and all sorts of other things that we can bring in, I think there's a lot of opportunity to do some big things this year. Great.
Yeah, very cool.
Thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate your time. Lots to show off in one meeting, so apologies it's run on a little bit.
No problem.
Great. Well, we'll see you all soon.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Luke.
Good job.
Thanks.
Josh, thank
Take
you.
care, everyone.